In the words of Jim Mora, playoffs? Playoffs? We're just trying to win a game. Another game. Never gets old. Welcome to the playoffs, guys. Welcome to the toilet bowl. Welcome to the real playoffs. And as was mentioned, I'm going to put a post later today about payouts. Everyone is playing for something. Everyone is playing for something. And what we have here is the winner's bracket. A look at it. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the consolation ladder that I prefer to call the toilet bowl. There is some honor in winning the toilet bowl championship as well. And I want to look at this as far as who I think the favorites are in the toilet bowl. In the consolation ladder, again, you're playing for your pick choice. So depending where your keepers fall, sometimes you want to take the first pick, sometimes you want the sixth. You can choose any of those based on finish. One thing that also needs to be stated is if you lose in the first round, you move into the loser's bracket of the toilet bowl. You are not removed from toilet bowl champion consideration, and you are still eligible to play in that title game. If the winner's bracket champion loses to the loser's bracket champion will win. And this has happened multiple times in this league. I believe last year as well as the year before. It happened. So taking a look at this here, and the seating is a little bit different than you would generally see in the toilet bowl here. The teams that I really like and I think have a chance to make some noise. First of all, Mr. Luckbox is potentially certainly a top 3 or 4 team in this league, and in my opinion, was a very, very scary team. A very, very scary team. Unfortunately, he had a lot of points against him, and his team, he missed Le'Veon Bell for a while. His team had some weeks where he only went for 80 or 90 points, and he gave up a lot of points. He gave up a lot of points, played poor defense, and he's going to trash most of the teams that he plays here. But I like the heart of a couple teams that I really like the heart of here. I like Danny's heart always. The Butt Buddies, Don't Stop Believing, and Dab on them. I think those are 3 teams that could potentially give Mr. Luckbox some problems. So I'm really interested here to see what happens because I know these teams are not going to fold. Betting odds, Luckbox is the favorite. The second favorite, in my eyes, is Don't Stop Believing, followed by Dab on them and the Butt Buddies. Got Here is the championship winners bracket. And you'll notice here we have a couple teams with some buys. Trampus, Allen, Edwards, Wayne Newton, Wayland's team received a bye, finishing pretty much was, I believe he was first in the league from about week 6 on. So a good year for Trampus. Good year for Trampus. And juiced me up. Got hot toward the end of the season. Got on a winning streak when I was a little nervous there for a little bit that I was potentially going to miss the playoffs. But my team, led by a couple really big performers, found its stride, and I will also not be playing this week. But we have Shake and Bake. We have Jesse Shawver, curly-haired beaut, truly curly-haired beaut. Works for the migrant program. Does a lot of things. No one really knows what. Pretty much he goes to work when he wants. He goes to restaurants every day for lunch. I don't really think he pays for his gas, his food, or frankly anything that he does. But Jesse's certainly a fantastic young man, doing good things for the migrant program in his district. Against Tyler. Tyler is a humble accountant. Tyler's moving to the Yorktown area. He and I will soon play a lot of golf together. And humble accountant. Good dude. Very clean fashion. And then we have Adam Brandt. Adam Brandt, perhaps the second most generous and loving man in this league. The first is the man he's playing up against this weekend. His competition, Lollipop Guild. Don't know how they got in the playoffs, but he found a way. Jason did not lead the league in points. He was probably third in points, is my guess. But Jason and the Mighty Midgets will go to battle. Before we look at these matchups, there's some things that I need to talk about with you guys. I feel as though, as an educator, there are some important things. And first of all, I want to remind you that this week we actually did go back to our old sponsor, the Tesler Adler Whalen, almost Evans law firm. What they can do for you is pretty much anything that you need legally. They can give you legal advice. They can get you out of trouble if you get into trouble. They can post your bond and bail and so on and so forth. However those things work. Trampus will take care of you. He'll take really good care of you as far as you need a divorce and other things. Trampus is at least the third or fourth best lawyer at his own firm there. And also, we're brought to you by Ice Mountain Spring Water, guys. This is the 23.7 fluid ounce size with a nice pop cap here. You notice it's great for workouts. You don't lose the lid. You can flip it up, take a drink, get back on your treadmill. One thing I want to make you all aware of, and one thing I always consider is my intended audience. I talk about this in my literature, my language classroom. We analyze and we dive into who is the intended audience of this piece. So in my case, I'm talking to the 3 or 4 of you who I assume are watching this. Guys, I tell you what, if you are properly hydrated, your pee should resemble water. Okay? So hydration, very important. Additionally, those of you who are coaching this week, it's important that your athletes are properly hydrated. Okay? So I would expect that Shake and Bake, Simply Simple, Lollipop, and Mighty Midgets, what I would advise is, stand over them and watch them relieve themselves and make sure that they are properly hydrated. Very important to avoid those cramps. Additionally, for those teams that have bye weeks, what I did is I wanted to take a look. Trampus and my teams, we don't have to play this week because we're good. So some things I wanted to there were things I took a look at our teams and some strategies because I went with the resting my players strategy. They're on my bench almost entirely. A couple guys who just haven't gotten a chance to play this year are in there. Some of my concerns, though, however, David Johnson this week. He's in Miami, which we all know can get in some trouble in Miami. But David Johnson is a Christian man. His wife is pregnant. So I've instructed Diddy, make sure you stick to curfew, stay away from Miami Beach. Okay. Matt Stafford is in Chicago. Okay, can't get in trouble there. Probably going to be snow. Jameis is at home. He and Mike, they're playing video games. They're doing their Bible studies. Mike Evans and Jameis, they're doing their cuddling together at night. For Trampus, one interesting thing that he did, and I respect this. I did not make the same decision. He decided this week to field a large portion of his team off of his bench, but additionally, he gave Carson Palmer a tryout run. He is putting Carson Palmer in the lineup this week because he's going to have some decisions to make in week 15 and potentially week 16 with Tom Brady. I know the Denver matchup is looming, so he wants to see what Carson can do when given the pressure of playing for Brady's Vicious. Okay. May need to change your team name there if you're going to play Carson. Additionally, he put his leader, Delanie Walker, okay, the leader of his team. He is leaving him in the lineup this week. And I assume the reason for this is he wants his leader to lead by example. Okay, Delanie is not taking plays off. Even when things are decided, Delanie plays on. Julio is out in Los Angeles. We'll see if he plays this week. Trampus is resting him, which I think is smart. My number one concern for Trampus is Jordan Howard. He's playing in Detroit. The odds of being stabbed in Detroit are exponentially higher than everywhere else in the country, pretty much, except for maybe Gary. So there, you can't use public bathrooms there. So maybe Jordan Howard is, he's having some breakfast and he can't relieve himself and his bladder explodes. There's some various things that I'm really worried about Jordan Howard this weekend in Detroit. And I heard this on a podcast that I know Jesse and myself listen to. The Fantasy Footballers. It's just thefantasyfootballers.com. Very funny guys. They do a great job covering. They have a daily show. Comes on around noon. So if you're working out or you're driving or whatever you're doing, you want to listen to them, do so. Or for white noise, frankly. And the player that they addressed, T.Y. Hilton, they called him the Texan Destroyer, who the Colts play this weekend. And one of the men said that's probably the name of his boat, the Texan Destroyer. And I just thought that was pretty funny. So I like T.Y. to have a big game this week. Here's our first matchup. Jesse's going to add a kicker. And what I want to do, I want to break this down absolutely by position. I hate Colin Kaepernick. I think this is a gutsy decision by Jesse. This is one of those all or nothing situations where Kaepernick, he could get benched, but we saw the Jets defense. I actually think this quarterback position, in my eyes, is a wash. And that might seem crazy to you, but Tampa Bay's pass defense is not as bad as everyone thinks it is. And their offense has an ability to stay on the field. So I don't foresee those scenarios where Drew Brees has the ball twice in 5 minutes and he's driving down the field, throwing up points, which also for Jesse helps with Brandon Cooks farther down the lineup. The biggest thing to me here, and if you just look at the names, you look at DeMarco Murray and Jeremy Hill against Todd Gurley and Frank Gore, The names sound good, but when you look at production, Jesse has a massive, massive, massive advantage. Then you look at matchups, and you see Denver, you can run on them, and you certainly shouldn't try to pass on them. So I love Murray in that spot. I think it's a pretty good spot. I think that projection is pretty spot on at 17.5. Jeremy Hill. Rex Burkhead is the other option. He is a white. He is not ever getting a goal line carry. Jeremy Hill at Cleveland in a game that they're just going to pound the ball. Cincinnati still needs to win games. They still need to win games. You look at Todd Gurley. I don't care who they're playing. The dude, he's facing 9 in the box. And then you look at Frank Gore, and frankly, I think the easiest, no pun intended, way to beat that Houston is through the air. So Jesse, massive advantage there. And I tell you what I also see is I see Dez Bryant, Larry Fitzgerald, Brandon Cooks. Name-wise, they sound very good, but I think what Jesse has with Steve Smith, Michael Crabtree, not Brandon Marshall, but I think that Jesse's receivers can do enough to neutralize Tyler's advantage at that position and really give him an advantage. Then I look at this wild card spot at the bottom. If Jesse is going to lose this match, if Tyler wants to win, he has to have Brandon Cooks be big. I actually like Tyler Eifert as well in this spot. I actually think even if Reed plays, I kind of prefer Eifert in a good matchup. I think Jesse gets the job done this week. I'm looking at these teams. He's going to add a kicker, and I think Jesse gets a win. And he would move on to play Trampus in what would just be a fantastic, fantastic matchup. And frankly, it would be good chatter all week as well. Here, we have the Lollipop Guild against the Mighty Midgets. And the biggest thing I want to discuss here is, well, a couple things. One, I think Jason does have an advantage at Andrew Luck. I'm not concerned with the Houston matchup. The Colts are much better moving the ball through the air. But the one thing that I looked at here, and I'm trying to make an objective prediction here for maybe the first time in a while anyway. And I'm looking at projections, and I ask myself, okay, which team is likely over-projected or under-projected? And I just want to look at that real quick because Jason has a couple running backs who really don't get in the end zone a lot, but they're in very good spots. They have very, very, very good matchups. But I still think 26 out of those two guys, okay, I could buy it, but I don't necessarily know that he can go too much over that. So I think that's pretty fair. And then I look at Ezekiel Elliott, and I think 16.4 just seems a little bit low. Chris Thompson, Julian Edelman, I think has an advantage over Kelvin Benjamin at that same position. And I actually like Emmanuel Sanders in this spot against Tennessee, a team that cannot defend the pass. I prefer Demaryius Thomas, but sometimes Emmanuel Sanders has those games. I think the touchdown, Moncrief, he's getting his touchdown. He gets it every week. But yardage-wise, I think Emmanuel Sanders is kind of sneaky this week. And I just look at Adams' team. He's just balanced. And then he has the X factors. One, Travis Kelce. I believe 3 weeks in a row he's gone over 100 yards, which is ridiculous considering Alex Smith's throwing the ball. And then DeAndre Hopkins got in the end zone last week. Terrible quarterback play, but at Indianapolis, certainly a plus matchup. Back to Jason's team. Love Spencer Ware tonight. And this is something I should have mentioned in Jesse's preview as well. It's supposed to be 23 degrees, I believe, tonight at that football stadium there in Kansas City. Generally, you see more running there, and that yields Spencer Ware. Maybe some more ball control. He's a good pass catcher. I love, love, love Spencer Ware. What I think Jason needs is another 2-touchdown game out of Spencer Ware. Okay. Additionally, he needs at least 3 touchdowns out of Martin, Miller, Moncrief, and Benjamin. And then he needs Andrew Luck to have a big game. And if one of those touchdowns goes to Moncrief, he has a good chance. Exit music today is Do You Mind? Featuring Nicki Minaj, Chris Brown, lots of rap people. Jeremiah, it's a very long song. Fresh beats. I look at the projections here. I just think Adams' team is slightly underprojected. But I tell you what, I really, really, really like Spencer Ware tonight in this matchup at home against Oakland. This is a tough one for me. Defenses and kickers really matter. Something I should have mentioned earlier. In the playoffs, defenses and kickers matter. Think about weather. Okay, think about those things. Leaning Jason's way, I think, a little bit on the defense and kicker. Just with the Seahawks at Green Bay. Don't love it. Aaron Rodgers is kind of a punk, though. Ooh, man. I'm going with the underprojected team, and I think that's Adam Brandt tonight. I'm going with Adam's team. I think this one's going to be very close. My projected score in this one, 97.5 to 107. Jason.